After doing the maze in Loomian Legacy for around an hour, I noticed it was very difficult. So I wondered if there was a good strategy to win. And after about 13 articles and 2 hours of Google searching, I found 4 methods that might work. I'd also like to note that I may not like a strategy or not recommend it, but that doesn't mean it won't work for you. The first method that I found is the wall following method. This method is fairly common and easy to understand. Basically, just hold your right or left hand, just don't swap between them, and walk along the wall to the end of the maze. This is a guaranteed way to solve any maze given enough time. But unfortunately, you only have about 5 minutes. Which, well, is enough. You may not reach the goal in time. And while doing the maze, there's always a chance that you run into a trap or a laser or nevermare even. And all of those lead to immediate death, meaning you have to restart. This is the method I heard about most when looking up different methods. And I mean, it makes sense. The method does often work. The second method is random mouse. This method is very straightforward. Any intersection that you come across, just choose a random direction and go that way. This definitely isn't the most efficient method, but it's the easiest. Although there's a high chance you might run out of time or accidentally die. I use this most often because it's the easiest. I just don't want to think and I just run around randomly. The third method is called Tremu's algorithm. It was invented by Charles Pierre Tremu. This is also a very common method to solving mazes. The method is to mark the ground behind you by some sort of marker. Like, for a common example, breadcrumbs. But since this is a video game and that's not a function, I figured I would just use the candy corn scattered across the maze as a marker. Anytime I saw a piece of candy, I would head directly towards it. This definitely isn't the fastest method, although it can get you to the end quite often. The fourth method is more specifically towards Loomian Legacy, as it requires nevermare. I don't know if this has a name, so I'm just going to call it the nevermare strategy. From what I could find, the creator of this method is Detective Badge on YouTube, link to video below. Nevermare spawns near the end of the maze, so if you listen closely, you can hear Nevermare cry at the beginning of the round. So follow where it yelled from. This is a good idea because it gives you an idea of where to go, but there are a few flaws. Sometimes Nevermare just won't call out or move at all and you just don't hear it. And sometimes you may hear Nevermare on the right side of the map, but the route to the exit could be on the left. I don't feel as if this method should stand alone as an idea. While I do think it's really helpful to solving the maze, there's like too much room for error or like flaws in it for it to be like its own method. But those are the 4 methods I could find. As for my thoughts on the maze, I personally dislike the maze in its entirety. I feel as if escape is determined basically by luck. Using all methods, there is still exponential room for failure. Dead ends are way too common, lasers take multiple seconds to disappear, and traps, well easy to avoid, sometimes are impossible to see in the tall grass. But for my 2 least favorite parts of this entire maze, just sometimes the exits just don't work. Like multiple times, I got to the end, it just didn't let me go through. My initial thought that this was the exit for a different round, but at one point I found a key floating in the air, proving my first theory false. So the maze can sometimes just break and not let you win. Another problem I have is the fact that multiple games can happen at once. I don't mind seeing multiple groups of people, but Nevermare can be heard twice, which makes it very difficult to tell where Nevermare is. And sometimes I feel like both Nevermare can attack you. Occasionally, I can be right in front of Nevermare and it won't attack, whereas other times, Nevermare can see me from off screen. But those are probably my least favorite parts of the maze. I do like how they added these safe rooms. I felt like it made it a little easier to escape Nevermare if it saw you. But as for escaping, I would recommend combining 3 of them. I would recommend listening to where Nevermare spawns from and going in that general direction and following the candy corn that are on the ground. But if there aren't any, then use the random mouse strategy to just run in a random direction. This is my recommendation for how to escape the maze. If something else works better for you, use that. But the way I do the maze most is just by listening to music and using the random mouse strategy and just hope I win. Overall, I have more negative feelings towards the maze than positive. I think it looks great and has a lot of ambiance, but I feel like it's way too difficult. I personally would want them to add a very small mini-map at the bottom corner of the screen, just to alert you of like Nevermare or save you a little time by showing you a dead end. But these are my opinions, so thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.